Alrighty, so I'm here in my backyard, and I feel like I've been spending most of my summer out here actually doing a lot of gardening, and it's become kind of actually part of my daily ritual. Shortly after I get up in the morning, go through some of my routines, I come out here, take off my socks, and I walk barefoot on the grass, and I check up on my plants, see how everything's doing. I probably spend a good hour out here almost sometimes, and the sun is always beaming down. We've had a lovely summer here so far, and when and I love just soaking up the sun. So I come out here and I take off my clothes, and there's neighbors around me, and would I always wanted to just be out here naked, and that would always kind of like skip toe around to not be seen by my neighbors that I might be walking around naked, because I would do that. And then one day it kind of dawned on me, like, who cares? Like, what does it really matter if anyone sees me without clothes on? And it got me, and I just one day had that epiphany, and I just started walking about freely out here without any clothes. And what struck me was the connection to the idea of shame, and I can't help but feel that shame is one of the biggest traumas that's ever been endured onto the human psychology, because it actually doesn't serve any real purpose whatsoever that's a bit to have any benefit or gain from. And when I really realized that, and I really let that sink in, I realized that I could be out here or do anything in the world as long as I'm not seeking to do harm unto others. And it doesn't matter what the perceptions of the outside world or of others are onto me. If there's something they don't like, they can just not look in my direction, or they can evaluate and work within themselves whatever the problem is that they actually have. So with that realization came pretty big liberation, to actually feel that sense of freedom that came from, who gives a fuck, because I'm not doing any harm, and I'm expressing myself freely, feeling comfortable, embodying the sun, the pure raw energy that comes from that connection from above and from my bare feet on the ground. And I can't think of anything that's been more healing for me this summer than having that experience every day. So I wanted to share that, because I feel that so many of us are inundated with the idea of how things should be, and feeling shameful if we don't live up to par with that. As an example, when I usually am doing walking around the backyard naked thing is usually just on the weekdays when my parents aren't home. And I was doing it on a weekend, and when I was out here, my dad came out and he saw me butt naked, and he started preaching at me about, what are you doing? What if the neighbors see you and they call the cops and blah 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 blah. Just story after story after story. And my response to him was simple: I'm not afraid of the world like you are. It's like this idea of what's right and what's wrong was already so ingrained onto him that there wasn't even any thinking or feeling of it. Was just this automatic reaction of, that's not right. And we get that from everywhere, from our peers, our coworkers, society as a whole, and it's all fucking bullshit. I'm sorry, but it is. It's like, own your own authenticity and just be yourself and do no harm. It really is that simple. So I hope that touches the hearts of some of the people that might see this. And on the subject of being out here and spending a lot of time in my backyard, I've been thinking. I was also thinking about what I've gained from really taking it up a notch this year with gardening. I built 3 garden beds, lined the whole fence with berry shrubs, and I'll show that stuff at the end of the video. And the other day I got to writing down some of what I think is the benefits of the therapy of gardening, and I wrote them down, and I thought I would read them rather than just try to recall everything I wrote because it was streamed much more eloquently at the time. So I'm just going to read these couple points on the therapy of gardening that I think are a huge benefit for people to really soak in and, perhaps be inspired to take up this hobby, this passion, this outlet, whatever. To try it out for yourself and experience some of these things, or maybe experience some of these things through whatever your craft might be in the world. I think that there's some good takeaways. Anyway, so man and woman were born into the capacity for both stewardship and creativity. Gardening combines both. A gardener should be nourishing the earth he tends to while employing any creative means of growing the foods that sustain him. Our role requires commitment because just like rearing children, when tending cultivated plants, they require support from us, unlike their fully self-sustaining wild counterparts. Gardening is an opportunity to connect with the cycles and rhythms of the earth. With attention to detail, we can see when and how a plant changes as we move through the seasons. This observation can give us clues about how to eat throughout the year to find the greatest dietary balance in life for us. That's a huge one because there's so much fads about diets, and it's like really nature. It gives us the ideal diet for where we are, when we are. So, gardening is an opportunity to ground ourselves. And what does this mean, grounding? On one hand, when we're touching the earth and walking barefoot upon her, we discharge energies within us that are in excess, be they overbearing emotional weights or some other kinds of toxicity that we've accumulated. On the other hand, there's a more subtle exchange available to us when we are grounded with the earth. A sense of time may disappear, an appreciation or disgust, perhaps, for all manner of creatures may emerge, and these particular affinities may warrant studying to see what the significance of those creatures are to us. And there is a host of unknowns as we revert closer to our primitive interaction with all sorts of bacteria and microorganisms in the soil and in our environment. Gardening, especially barefooted, can heighten our senses. And how beautiful is this to experience life more vividly. I recall compacting the soil on one of my first garden beds that I ever built. It was already dusk, I could barely see, and I decided to close my eyes and just focus my awareness on my bare feet pressing on the soil. What happened amazed me. I could feel all the contours of the unlevel soil beneath me that I was previously unaware of. And stepping around in this way, I very efficiently and evenly flattened out the garden bed soil in the dark with my eyes closed. What else could this kind of training unlock for us? And how much do we rely on our sight and what lies immediately before us that we so easily neglect the subtle and our other senses, both our physical and our unseen or psychic senses. Also, gardening can build perseverance and hone our appreciation of hard work. To value all that good things truly come about by great efforts of one or more people. This also heightens our experience of gratitude for that which we have or get. So those are some of the points that kind of came to me from my experience with gardening this year. And it has been a lot of hard work, and I kind of consider this year to be an investment for future years and future harvests because I did a lot of infrastructure building. And I got to learn a lot about things that grow well, things that don't grow well, where I should position things, how I should do them. Coming more into coming face to face with the cycles of predators for cultivated plants. One of the interesting things about being the gardener, as I mentioned, is that it's very different from just letting a forest go about its own business. It's as the gardener, you are the steward for what you sow. So if you're not stewarding, things are going to run amok, whether that's dying or just completely taking over the environment. So it's a good practice of mindfulness and awareness. And yeah, So thanks for sitting through this one with me. And I guess I'll just show a little bit around the garden of kind of what I've done this year with the place, as I've tended to make it a bit more my own, a bit more of a nurturing space. And yeah. So along this edge here by the fence, I nicely lined up with some mulch to keep the area just well moistened and protected. And I got a red currant bush. This is a red raspberry bush. This is a goji berry bush. This is a tiny blueberry bush that I hope takes off. And this one is my most interesting one, was a wild black raspberry bush that I got from the park nearby. And I harvested it and I planted it here, and it's taken off really well. So I'm expecting that this fence will ultimately just become littered with berries for a yearly harvest, so that should be really wonderful. And back here in this corner is a blackberry bush. And over here is the main garden bed that I made simply by creating 2 layers of stones to create a barrier. And then on the inside is just some good quality soil, as well as with the compost that I made. And some of the stuff that I have growing here was kind of given to me, mostly the tomatoes, and I didn't really know what they were, nor did I expect that they would just completely take over everything. So next year I'm going to do tomatoes in pots instead of the garden bed, so I can grow more other fruiting vegetables that aren't so pervasive, like cucumbers that are kind of back there, chard, broccoli plants, rapini, zucchini. Zucchinis always grow really nice. Love these things. Peppers, borage flowers, hot peppers, and this smaller bed here I made afterwards, and this is going to be dedicated for strawberry plants and rhubarb on this end here. I really like berries, so I just what's really cool about them is how they shoot out little babies that I then root themselves, and so I'm just spacing from one plant. I can get many plants. It's a really cool thing. And yeah, we also have some beans and my dad kind of lays out. And then this here is was already existing, but I just fixed it up to put in some nice things that I like. There's lemon balm. There's a bunch of purslane, which is a weed that I absolutely love, very nutritious. Rapini, my favorite green. Some lettuces. Some watercress. Chives that never came. This is a different kind of watercress that's going into seed. And this is here my tower garden that is ready, I guess 3/4 of the way of the season, I guess I would say. And grow a lot of things on here. I'm not going to show that right now. I have other videos dedicated to the tower garden. And these ones here I also did a video on how to use these flower towers, which I'm doing for strawberries. And yeah, the little fire pit there, and my dad's back section of growing vegetables. So yeah, that's just a little quick run around, and I've had a few gatherings back here in the backyard, like evening fires have been really nice, serving food for people, and just experiencing that kind of camaraderie and community, and it's really great, and I like experiencing that to kind of make up for all the just me and myself time that I spend with these days. Yeah, so I guess that's it for this update, and thanks all for tuning in. Take care.